You're listening to Storage Nerds Podcast, where we unravel the best-kept secret of the real estate investing world, the storage industry. Join the grassroots guru in self-storage, Stacy Rossetti, in insightful discussions about finding, funding, and running these spaces, allowing you to yield the highest returns possible. Get your foot in the door on self-storage and discover how to properly purchase facilities, negotiate with sellers, and close the deal without worries. Start unpacking that investment wisdom with Stacy right now.
All right, welcome. Okay, I have been driving all weekend. Oh my gosh. What is everybody doing for the holidays? I would love to know. I've been driving from Florida to, I'm in Pennsylvania now. Wednesday we're driving to New York. So what did we do this weekend? So I drove from Florida to Live Oak, and I stopped in and checked on two of our facilities and just like checked on them and just made sure they were okay. I was driving up and swung by the two facilities that we have in Live Oak. Let me see if we share my screen, and I'm going to show you our path. I'll show you my path. Okay, so yeah, so this is what we did. Okay, so now Pete, he's been like the last couple of weeks, he was up in Georgia, up in the Atlanta, Georgia area, like doing some work on some of our facilities up there. For everybody that's new, that doesn't know, we have 13 facilities through Florida and Georgia. So my husband Pete, he was up in the Atlanta area working on some of the facilities that we have up in this area. And so he left me for like 2 weeks in Florida, to take care of Lillian and to, do all, work and do all the things down here. So what I did is I drove Saturday from Tallahassee to Live Oak. Live Oak is right here. So we actually have, actually what I'll do is I'll just search Miss Lillian's self-storage. Yeah. So we have, you can see we've got two facilities here. So I drove over and checked on them. And like what I noticed was there was like a couple of units that just had some trash and stuff out. Yeah, so what we did is drove to Live Oak, and then there was like on one of the Live Oak facilities, it's like really, actually these facilities are hardly any work at all. But there was like one that had a little bit of trash that was like kind of left outside or whatever. You could tell they cleaned the unit out and then they just left a little bit of trash. So I picked that trash up and I put it into our owner's unit. And then we drove over to the other Live Oak, and there was also, it looked like somebody had moved out of one of the units and then like left like a whole bunch of boxes and stuff. And so I took all that trash and I put it into our trash unit. So typically at our facilities, what we do is we have one owner's unit, which is where we like, we leave the things like if we need like any yard stuff, like maybe a leaf blower or any tools or whatever is needed, extra locks or whatever's needed at that facility, right? So that's the owner's unit. And then we also have a trash unit. We try to get like two small ones, like 5x10s if we can. And then like, so if we ever find any trash, then we'll just put it into the trash unit. And then whoever's like the boots on the ground person, they'll come over and then they'll clean that trash unit out. They'll put it all there, and then like once it gets so full, then they can put it into like in the back of their truck or whatever and take it to the dumpster or something. Okay, so that's basically it. But I went to both of those facilities and there was like a whole bunch of trash left out, and so I just put it into like the trash units or whatever, and then I drove up to Valdosta, which is right here. And the same thing, there's like one unit that had like a little bit of trash kind of just left out. This is like typical, honestly. It's kind of, so it's frustrating, but like you shouldn't really get frustrated with something like this because it's just like part of owning storage facilities, right? People are always going to be leaving trash out, always. Like, so I just took that trash and just put it into the trash unit. And so that took a little bit of time. That was on Saturday. And then I drove from Valdosta up to Macon. And we actually just bought a storage facility in Macon. It's not under here, it's under Mission Self-Storage, because Mission Self-Storage is the fund that I have So I have a 506c fund. It's a Reg D fund, and I'm raising money for that. So if anybody wants to put any money in, we have a great facility that we're buying for $1.4 million. It'll be the third facility in the fund, and I'll be pitching that right after that. But you can see we have the Mission self-storage right here in Macon, and then we also have Mission self-storage up here in Blairsville. The goal for Saturday was to get to Blairsville because that's where Pete had been staying. He stays in this area, and then he like works this whole North Georgia area if he wants to go in and do some work or something. And so Mission self-storage, Macon is where we went because we just bought that facility and I had not seen the facility. So I drove like through that facility and drove around and took a look at it. And actually it's really not too bad, honestly. You know, I picked this facility up. This is a great deal for the fund. I put it into the fund because it's a great deal. It's a 33% ROI. And that's without even financing it out. And I picked it up for 171. It was 171 units, and I picked it up for $375,000. Right now, it does need some work. It needs like $200,000 worth of work. Okay, and let's see if this is the one, or is this Hawkinsville Road? Yeah, this is it. Mission self-storage Macon. And let me see if I could drop down and take a look at it. We just claimed Google on this. So we just claimed it like this past week. So we haven't gotten any pictures or fixed it or anything yet, but we're working on it. So let me see if I can get in there and like drop this down. I'm sure. Does it take you down there? I don't know if I did it the right way. Let me go back and do it again. Okay, so Mission self-storage. And then see what else. Let me zoom in because I'm going to use Google Maps all day for the training and stuff because we're going to talk about cap rates as well. So you can zoom in. And I don't have I'm not in my desk. I'm at my husband's sister's house in Pennsylvania. So everything's all screwed up right now. Okay, guys, just bear with me. And yeah, so this is it right here. It's off this major highway. You see this like major road right here. And let's see if I can get it like right. I'm not sure. Let's see. Where are we? Is that us? Yeah, I think that's us up there. I bet. Almost got it. Or no, you know what? I bet you this is the one that's for sale. Yeah, this is the one that's for sale. Okay, so this one right here, this is like our competition, and this one is for sale. Actually, I never really looked at this one. Let's take a look at it. It's on Crexty. Now, you guys, if you guys know me, y'all know that I don't buy anything off Crexty. We go directly to the owners, but this is it. So Macon Storage. Look at this one. This is on sale for like $1.7 million on Crexty right now. We can pull it up, maybe take a look at it too as well. Isn't that pretty cool? And so this is one of our competitions. There's like 4. Now Macon is if anybody knows anything about Macon, Georgia, Macon is it's like a rental city. All right, it's like a low income rental city. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. Very industrial, a lot of stuff is like kind of run down, it's just kind of one of those things. So this type of facility is exactly kind of what I would imagine. Yeah, I saw this one pop up on Crexty. I was like, oh, it's for sale. I would never buy it for that much. Obviously, I would buy, I buy mismanaged facilities that are, that need work is what I buy. I guess that's an income producing property. I mean, if that one can go for 1.7 million, then ours can definitely go for higher. And let me see if I can get it. Maybe it's not letting me do it. Hang on. It's kind of like, let's see, let's go back to Mission. Let's zoom in a little bit more and see if I could drop down because I want to show y'all what it looks like. It's actually really not bad. Like my husband Pete, he was like, oh, this one's bad. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's bad. I was like, it's okay. So we got it. So I just put like a really low offer in, but this is it right here. So this is kind of what it looks like. And from the outskirts, let's see. Yeah, so this is it. Oh, this one's it right here. Yeah, you see how it's kind of like there's a long building right here. And then there's another building right here, and then there's this building, and then there's this building right here. And then actually it's on 6 acres. So there's like a lot of land, but it's just fenced in. It's got a nice gate. It's got this little road right here that kind of comes in, it comes out. So you could come in and then you turn in. And there's like a nice like code, security code and stuff. And so it's like all fenced in. So that's kind of what it looks like. So now, and let me see here. So let me take a look at this. Yeah, so this is it. So this is it, yeah. So it's painted this like gray and blue color, which does not look good at all, honestly. The blue does not look good. The gray looks good. I really like a good gray on a storage facility because I feel like it hides a lot of imperfections and stuff. So, because we're looking at trying to paint a couple of our facilities right now, and I really like that kind of like dark gray. But the blue, this blue looks horrific. I mean, it does not look good at all. But so you can kind of see what it looks like. I don't think I can get closer to that. But so then over here, yeah, you could see, let me go over this way, yeah. And the back, these buildings in the back over here. So this long one right here is painted. This is a warehouse that somebody was renting and then died, and then all his stuff is there. And so now we have to go through the auction process because the wife does not want it. She's like, I don't want any of that crap. So we're gonna have to go through and figure out how to get rid of all that stuff. And he died like years ago, and the owner just like never took care of this stuff. Okay, so we're gonna have to go through the process and do that. But then after we clean this thing out, you could totally rent this thing out, you know, because like a nice big, it's a big warehouse is what it is. So and then this right here, this is the other storage, but he did not paint that. So like he halfway painted it, and then the other side, and then the back he did not paint. And I drove through and I took a whole bunch of pictures and stuff, but I haven't organized them yet. But it doesn't look bad at all. I mean, honestly, it really doesn't look bad. I think the blue is really kind of just what makes it look bad. But the facility itself is really and actually not too bad shape. Now there are a whole bunch of like towards the back, he took out some of the like the walls in between like units and stuff, and was trying to make them bigger and like doing like weird combinations of like of units sizes and stuff. I'm not 100% sure what he was doing, honestly. But he took like 171 units and he made it to where it was like only 90 of the units were usable. So we're gonna have to go back, but he has all that sheet metal still. He has like metal, he has like walls and stuff. So it's really just going back and making a whole bunch of like either 10 by 10s or 10 by 20s is what it is. So what Pete's gonna do is just like hire a crew to come out there and really just fix everything up, fix all the walls, put everything back in place the way it should be, you know, get the unit sizes in order. And then after that, he's going to paint, we're going to paint the thing, and we'll probably keep it like a dark gray, and then probably just do red doors. I don't know, you guys think, what color should I paint this? Because our Mission Self-Storage brand falls under the fund, and we're going to keep that brand. It's called Mission Self-Storage. It's right here. And so I was thinking red, you know, our colors are red and black. Let me see, Mission Self-Storage, here it is. And see, here it is. This is what the logo looks like. So it's like red and black. I was thinking like maybe like a dark gray and some red, you know, doors. But what do y'all think for colors? Maybe put it into the chat if y'all think of what you could do. Now the Miss Lillian's self-storage, Miss Lillian's is right here, and those colors are pink and purple. So I don't even know. We don't know what colors to do. We were thinking about gray, like a dark gray with maybe like pink or purple doors. I'm not sure. Y'all tell me. I'm not good with the colors. So maybe y'all can come up with some ideas for us. That would be great. So, but yeah, so we did that. So that's what I did is I drove from Valdosta all the way to Macon. And then from there, I got there like right when it was starting to get a little bit dark outside, so like 5 o'clock. So then from there, I drove up to Blairsville, which is up here, and that's where the other Mission Self-Storage is, and that's where we stayed. We stayed overnight in that area, and so up in this area, let me see, Blairsville. It's right here. Yeah, so you can see it. Let me zoom out. That's what this one looks like right here. This is the facility right here that we bought. I should do this. So that's this one here. Okay. And it's actually included, all this is all included as well too. And I've been over this, deal quite a few times, but really good deal, really great deal. So that's where we ended up on Saturday. Okay. And then so now we have a facility in Clarksville under contract. So we're actually moving on out into Tennessee for this deal, and it's a fund. It's a 506B fund, so it's open to accredited and non-accredited investors, but it's only open to like my market, to my VIP list. But so this one, I'm actually the GP on for the fund, and so I told Pete, I was like, we have to drive over and take a look at this facility. And so that's what we did. And and we're trying to get to like New York is what it is. So obviously going that way is like totally opposite direction than going up. Or that's where you see our Pete, that's where we are right now. And so going over to that way was like 5 hours out of the way, essentially, to go look at this facility. But we drove over and took a look at it, and Pete, so we could see what it looks like, because we have it under contract. We're going to buy it right in the money right now. And so Clarksville, sorry, it's called Cherry Station Storage is what it's called. So it's right here. So this one is what it looks like. And yeah, so this is the facility. It's 354 units, but that includes like 65 or 70 parking spaces. So it's like 250 doors, and then like 75 parking spaces, essentially, is kind of what it is. And so we drove over and took a look at this one, and we spent like maybe a couple hours there, and we did a walkthrough. And I'm gonna we did we'll post out some walkthroughs, but Pete, basically what he does is he takes his he has like a walkthrough kind of sheet that he uses, and then he takes it and he walks through, and he basically just makes notes on every single one of the facilities and the doors. He checked all the doors. This one is indoor storage that is not climate controlled. All right, but it's indoor storage. So we walked all in through here, and then we walk around the buildings and look at everything to see if the buildings are okay, if there's any, work that needs to get done. And then he just, he makes a note of all the different buildings, and then what the sizes of each of the units are for each of the buildings. And then if like there's any latches that are broken, or if there's like, double locks or anything like this out of the ordinary, then he'll just and if any of them are open, he'll open the doors as well too, and check the doors. But so he makes like a walkthrough list is what he does. And then like this is all parking and stuff, and it's not really honestly utilized to the best that it could be. So we're hoping that we can rearrange it, maybe get a little bit more better parking in there. We bought a facility. Our very first facility that we have is in Fayetteville, Georgia, and we also had a lot of parking in that one. And it took us a while to reconfigure everything, but we went from like, I think 40 parking spaces to like 75 parking spaces after we kind of reconfigured everything. So we're hoping that we'll be able to do that one as well too. Okay, so that's what we did. We drove. So on Sunday we drove to this. We got up super early, 6 o'clock in the morning. We got there about 10 or so, and we did the walkthrough. We left about noon. We had some lunch, and then we started heading to Pennsylvania. And it's like a 13-hour drive to get to Pennsylvania, which is where Pete's sister lives. So we did not make it, and then we had to sleep. We stayed the night in Lexington. And then we got up early this morning and drove the rest of the way to here. So like essentially for the last 3 days, I've done nothing except for just driving. It's just like exhausting. If anybody knows anything about driving, it's like so much work to drive, even though you're just sitting there, right? We're switching every couple hours, we're switching and driving. So, but we made it. So we're going to be here until tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, we'll go to New York. So while I went through that story, I kind of showed you our storage facilities, okay, and where they're at. So obviously Miss Lillian's and self-storage, and then also Mission self-storage, because typically we buy in Georgia, Florida, and this will be the first facility right here that we're buying in Clarksville. Okay, now So last week, if you guys were here and listened, last week we talked about all of the different markets that are out there for storage. Okay. We talked, did any of you remember any of them? I don't know. What are the three major like markets? Do you remember? Can you put them into the chat? The three types of markets. And Anna says a bell would be cool for the logo, red, black, and gray. Yeah. So yeah, what are the three markets? Can you remember from last week? Was anybody here last week? Which three types of markets are there in commercial real estate? I mean, actually in really any real estate market, but what are the three? So you have the primary market. Remember the primary market, the secondary market, and the tertiary markets. Remember this? Yes. Good. Primary, secondary, tertiary. Thank you, Steve, for amusing me. I appreciate that. Primary, secondary, and tertiary are the three markets within the commercial industry. Okay. Now you also have in between each of those markets, you have the sub-market, right? The sub market. So you have primary market, and then you have sub-primary, right? And then you have secondary market, and then sub-secondary, and then you have tertiary market and sub-tertiary markets. And sometimes in the commercial world, they may call it, like a class A market or a class B market or a class C or D market or something like this. Okay. So the facilities itself, the buildings themselves also they have kind of a class system, right? So for instance, if you went on to Yardi and started looking up commercial property or storage facilities on Yardi, then you would see a lot of class A, B, C, D markets is what you would see, right? Which is really just primary, secondary, tertiary markets. Okay. And I just call them, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now let's just go off of this Clarksville, Tennessee. Okay. This is where the one that we're buying. Okay. So now obviously when you look at Tennessee, all right, you can see all the major cities in Tennessee, right? You have Nashville, you have Chattanooga, Knoxville, and then you have Memphis. And then you have some of these like Jackson and let's see here. Let's see if we can find. And then we have Clarksville. As you zoom into Google, you'll start noticing all the different primary and then maybe sub-primary. And then maybe secondary markets. Let's see, I'm going to get rid of this and see if, Clarksville comes up, okay? If I zoom out, does Clarksville come up? Yeah. I kind of like to look at it this way too, right? So if you're out, if you're looking on Google Maps and you zoom all the way out, right? Then you can you'll see Nashville is obviously we know Nashville's a primary market, but Knoxville, Chattanooga, and then Memphis, right? I would also consider to be primary markets. Okay. And then, so when you start zooming into Google and looking, so now you see, let's see if I zoom out, Nashville still pops up. So you already know that one definitely is a primary. And then if you zoom in one time, right, you can see that Knoxville, Chattanooga, and Memphis come up, and then Pigeon Forge comes up. Pigeon Forge is a touristy area, so maybe it comes up that way, but I would consider this to be also a primary market. Even though it's a little tiny town and the population is, if you look up the population of Pigeon Forge, it's not a huge, big population. Now, because markets all depend on their populations. Let's just do Pigeon Forge population. 6,000 people, right? But it's a very touristy area where a lot of people are coming and going and parking RVs. I mean, RV parking in Pigeon Forge is definitely a primary market for sure, right? And and RV parks are primary markets there. Because it's so touristy, right? It doesn't always have to be based on population. Okay. What it has to be based on is population plus maybe movement. Right, in the area. So I would say honestly, Pigeon Forge to me would be considered a primary market just because it's expensive to be in that area. If you've been there, you know that because it's expensive. Now, and then Chattanooga, which is very interesting because I was reading the, I can't remember if it was realtor.com or Redfin or which list it was, but Chattanooga is considered one of the top 5 fastest cities to be growing in 2023. And also another city, which I thought was very interesting, and I saw on the list, was Augusta, which Augusta is down here. So you want to be paying attention to these lists as well too, I think too. But so Chattanooga pops up, and I think Chattanooga is going to be a very good like growing city over the next couple of years, even during the recession and stuff, because it was at one point considered a secondary market, but it's now moved into like a primary market, right? Because a lot of people are moving there. Once you zoom in a little bit further, you can see now like Franklin and Murfreesboro, and Clarksville and Cookeville, you can see these other Jackson, these cities that are kind of like popping up, right? So when you look at Nashville, you look at like Franklin and Murfreesboro are popping up. And obviously, if you've been to Nashville, you know that like Murfreesboro and Franklin are suburbs of Nashville. And these would be considered primary market as well, too. Okay. Now, a secondary market is when you are like, it's a standalone city, right? A standalone city would be considered secondary. So, for instance, Clarksville, which the population of Clarksville is like 150,000 people. I mean, it's between 150 and 200,000 people, and I think it's growing pretty quickly. What's Cookeville? I don't know. I've never heard Cookeville before, actually, on it. So, Cookeville, population 35, okay, 35,000. So to me, a primary market is like over 100, like 100,000, maybe 150,000 people, 100 and up, or maybe, I would say 150,000 people and up. If it's like a standalone city, right? And if it's like less than 150,000 people, but it's more than 25,000 people, it would be a secondary market. Okay. And so Cookeville would be like the perfect example of a secondary market, right? Perfect example, 35,000 people in the middle of your state. What's Jackson? Jackson is, let's do Jackson, Tennessee. Tennessee population 68,000 people. Okay. Now it's like, maybe 2020 or whatever, but that doesn't matter. You already know kind of what the population is. So 68,000 here. And then you have Cookeville is 35,000. And these are like, to me, those like when I'm looking at Tennessee and where I want to be in buying storage facilities, Cookeville, Jackson, and Clarksville would be like the cities that I'm looking at. Okay, to start, because I only look in secondary and tertiary markets, right? I do not look primary. I do not look at any suburbs within the primary market. Now, when I first started, 5-6 years ago, I could be in like sub-primary market, right? Because nobody was like I'm telling you, like in 2016, 2017, like nobody wanted to invest in self-storage. Like people were like, you're getting into self-storage, why? And only in the course of the last couple of years have people really wanted to invest in self-storage. But now everybody wants to invest in self-storage. So there's like a lot of hands in the pot. There's a lot of competition. There's definitely enough to go around, right? But it takes time and energy to find these deals. So we focus on secondary, sub-secondary, tertiary, and sub-tertiary markets. Okay, so me looking at Tennessee, I would be looking in Cookeville and Jackson, right? Or maybe, I don't know, in Johnson City and Kingsport. This looks like a really good area because this is kind of like right next to each other, right? So let's do Johnson City. And I'm always looking at population, always. So 71,000 people in Johnson City. What was the other one called? I forgot. Kingsport. Kingsport is 55,000. So just in this little area right here, you have 125,000 people. Clarksville, you have 150,000. Cookeville is 35,000. Jackson is like 60 or 70,000, right? So now just by looking at this state, I have a very, very good idea of where the primary markets are and the secondary markets are. Because Chattanooga, what's the population of Chattanooga? Chattanooga population. See, like Google already knows what I'm going to ask at 182,000 people. And then also Knoxville is 192,000, right? So these are really, I would say 150,000 or more is really getting into like primary market. Definitely 200,000 or more is a primary market. Knoxville, I would think is a little bit is a little bit too big. But maybe as you zoom in, right, as you start really zooming in, you can start looking now at because the reason I like Clarksville is because like Clarksville is like just all by itself. It's next to Fort Campbell, and being next to a military base is actually a very good, I think a very good location as well too, just to keep that in mind. Like in Georgia, you have like Columbus that has the military bases and stuff. So you may want to even consider that when you're trying to figure out what markets to look at, because they're coming and going and they need a lot of storage. But so this area, what's Fort Campbell? I want to see what Fort Campbell is. Fort Campbell population 12,000. See, right? So even adding those two up together, it's like 150, like 175,000 people for those two. This one, I think Knoxville is getting a little bit too popular. It's growing, and then it's reaching down into Oak Ridge, and it's reaching down into Lenoir City and Maryville, and even into Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. This whole area, honestly, it's a very expensive area. It's getting to be very expensive if anybody knows that area. And so I would call Oak Ridge, Lenoir City, Maryville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, I would call those like sub-primary markets. Sub-primary markets. I would say Knoxville is a primary market. And then these sub-primary markets would be like these suburbs around this major area right here. Because I mean, it's pretty populated in this area. Okay. And then also, so I'm looking for areas that are just like standalone cities, like Clarksville, Fort Campbell area, and then this Jackson area. And then I would start really looking at the population and, and start looking at to see where is that 75,000 or less, 75,000 or less would be a good, a good area to be focusing in. Number one. And I told you, remember to also think about how much money you are going to be spending on your facility. Because now remember, Clarksville, I'm buying a facility that's 350 units for $2.8 million. Okay, that's $200,000 population right here. And so the facility for 350 units is $2.8 million. Okay, now it's worth like $5.3 million, right? But it's just a more expensive facility. So like if you're not there yet, then essentially that you cannot afford a facility in a population of where there's 150,000 people. So you have to start working your way down to try to figure out what population area you can afford. Okay. Like this one has 70,000 people in it. I mean, there's really like inside these little towns, like in Jackson. Let's go over to Jackson here. Okay. And, there's 70,000 people here. I mean, that's kind of a big town, honestly. I mean, and so when you search storage in this area, like storage, Jackson, Tennessee, I wouldn't be surprised if you found big box facilities. Now, you may not find like extra spaces in CubeSmart and stuff like this, but in this town here, we talked about this last time, big box companies that are just like ones, they're like sub-primary, secondary, they're either sub-primary or secondary like players, right? So each one of the levels has their own different players. They have the primary, all those. And then you start getting into like in Georgia, we've got like 10 federal storage, and they're coming into like towns like Jackson is what they're doing. And they're just buying in these types of towns from 75,000 to 125,000 people, right? And that's like they can afford $2 to $4 million facilities is kind of where they're at. And then, so I'm guessing that these facilities in this area are going to be a little bit more expensive, right? You may be able to find something for $1 million. You may be able to find something like I found in Macon. I mean, Macon has 150,000 people, but Macon is like a rental city. It's a rental city. It's an industrial city. When you drive through Macon, you're not like, wow, this is the most beautiful city ever. You're like, wow, this is like, there's a lot of trucking going on here. All right. Even though there's 150,000 people. So it's gonna be a little bit cheaper, right, for stuff. Okay. And I found the ugliest storage facility in a town of 150,000 people. That's what I found. Okay. And so you can do the same thing in like a secondary market, like this type of a market here. Is there a storage facility in this area? Just the owner has not let go of, and and just like ran it to the ground. And so I would go through and I would, look at all these storage facilities, and then remember that you also want to look at like the facilities that are not on Google Maps. Okay. So what that means is that, in order to get onto Google Maps, it is not easy to get onto Google Maps, right? And so a lot of people that have been owning their facilities for 20 or 30 or 40 years, they are not on Google Maps. And so you want to also find those facilities and call the owners as well. So remember, we call owners directly and talk to owners directly. But there's a lot of storage facilities that are on Google Maps, and I'm guessing that probably USA, South Side, you could get in and start really just educating yourself on what these facilities look like. This one is all gated. And it looks like it got painted. Somebody bought it and it looks like it may have gotten painted. So they painted it or something. Or maybe not. I can't tell. US Southside Storage is what it looks like. The pictures are also horrible, on this one. It's like you can't ever tell what the hell this damn storage facility looks like. Kind of annoying, but I would put that as like a B, as a, like, how you class your leads as like A, B's, and C's, right? We do this also for our leads. Like A is like, or you have like hot, warm, and cold. And I would probably put that as like a warm lead, or a B or something, and say, okay, this pictures on this Google Maps sucks. So let me try to call the owner and see if he needs somebody to buy this facility for him. And let's see who else. Area wide storage. Let's see what else. This one's here. Area wide storage. This is looking pretty good here, little tiny facility back in the back over here. Look, there's no like, now it may be some sort of different kind of store. Maybe it's cool. Oh, look, this is a good one right here. Look at the storage facility. And then like, here's the phone numbers right there. So you can just give him a call and see if he wants to sell. No, this is a great starter facility. You do some parking. It's really long, So yeah, I think like, these standalone towns like this, these standalone towns like Jackson, Clarksville, Cooksville are secondary markets that you could try to get in there and see if there's any facilities that may be, that you could call and talk to the owners and see if they're interested in selling. Okay, so I just found a whole bunch just over here in Jackson. You could do the same thing in Cookville. I would stay out of like the Franklin, Murfreesboro, like this whole primary market. This is primary, sub-primary market right here. This is a secondary market. This is a secondary market. Now, tertiary market is like, I can only afford something that's like $300,000. Okay, that's tertiary market. And so, you want to be in like little tiny towns. You want to be in little tiny towns. And I don't know, look at the population of these towns. These are all coming up. I would be looking at all these towns like Savannah, Henderson, Milan, Martin, Union City, Paris, Camden, all these little tiny towns right here, and just see what the populations are. And, start looking inside these to see if there's any good, storage facilities in this area. I don't know, look, and then as you start zooming into Google more, then like all these little tiny towns come up, right? And every single one of these little tiny towns, they all have storage facilities in them. I'm telling you, they may just have one or a couple, but like pretty much every town that has like a couple hundred people or more are going to have a storage facility in it. And if they don't, then, there needs to be a storage facility there. Because I mean, everybody needs storage, especially nowadays. We own a storage facility in Warm Springs, Georgia, which is a town of like maybe 400 or 500 people. It's a super small town, but the population around it was like maybe 6,000 or 8,000 people. And we're the only storage facility in the area, and we're like always full. Right. So we only had so much money to buy a storage facility. That's like one of our very first storage facilities that we bought. We bought it for $100,000. And it's worth like maybe 350 grand or something right now. And so we'll make like 200 grand on that thing. There's nothing wrong with making like 200 grand on a storage facility, over the course of like 3 years of owning it. So look at these little tiny towns. Okay, so now you have, so we've been looking at these tertiary markets here. Let me see. It means secondary and tertiary markets. Now, in like a state like Tennessee, you have to also know the cap rate, right? And the cap rate is really just the NOI divided by the purchase price is really what it is. But what you want to do is you want to know what the cap rate is. I get this all the time. I actually want like somebody that I'm working with right now, a partner, just emailed me. He's like, "Hey, you're buying in this area. Like, what's the cap rate in this area?" And cap rate is essentially specific to the area. All right. So you can't say like, oh, it's just a 6 cap or a 5 cap or whatever. And honestly, cap rate, I mean, to use cap rate as like a number to purchase something is kind of biased, honestly, because really, you're going to pay what you feel comfortable in the deal, not, but you shouldn't really base it on solely on just cap rate. Okay. Some people are bigger risk takers than others, so they're okay with paying, a different cap rate than others. Okay. So, but what I wanted to just get into today is like cap rate based on the markets that we just talked about. So the primary market, typically the cap rate is between 4 and 6. Okay. 4 and 6. And, so when you're running your numbers, so for instance, on our deal analyzer, I'll pull up a deal analyzer and I'll show you in just a second kind of how we run our numbers. But on our deal analyzer, there is a place that's called the market cap rate. And the market cap rate is basically what you're trying to either purchase or sell that cap rate for. All right. You're trying to purchase it or sell that cap rate for. And in that facility for. So in like Nashville, at one point they were getting down to like 3 caps, and it was just like really, really crazy cap rates. But for now, I would say what we're running our numbers on is like if you were going to buy something in Nashville in the primary or the sub-primary markets, then you would be at between like a 4 and a 6 cap, 4 to 6 cap rate. Okay. And then if you're going to get into like a secondary market, which is where we're buying Clarksville, right? This Fort Campbell, Clarksville area, we run our numbers at a 7 cap. In fact, all of my virtual assistants that work for us, all 10 of them, I tell them to run all numbers at a 7 cap. All right. We do not a 7 cap or higher. So a 7 cap for a secondary market and an 8 cap for a tertiary market. Now, an 8 cap for a tertiary market is kind of high, but it's actually doable. But it's just like, you have to make a lot of offers in order to get an 8 cap. Now, I think next year you'll definitely be able to get an 8 cap on your deals, right? So tertiary markets, we're at 8 caps plus. Secondary markets, it's like 6 to 7, but we're really pushing 7 caps. Okay. In fact, all my students are buying something right now. They're not buying anything higher than 7 cap. Okay. And so we're sticking to 7 and 8 caps. That's where we're at. All right. But we only buy in secondary and tertiary markets. So keep that in mind, secondary and tertiary markets. If you want to get like over, populated or super populated areas, then you want to go like you want to have a lower, like you want to have a 4 or 5 or a 6 cap, depending on what your risk level is. So yeah, so I would say like Memphis is going to be and then also with with primary markets, right? So Memphis may be a 6 cap and Nashville may be a 4 cap. Right. So maybe a very big primary market might have a lower cap rate than like a smaller primary market. So obviously like Memphis and then like Knoxville and Chattanooga are going to be smaller primary markets than Nashville, right? Nashville's a strong big city. So the cap rate, that's why I said 4 to 6, right? Or like a 6 to 7 for a secondary market, or an 8 plus for a tertiary market. Now, when I first got into storage, 2016, 2018, a little bit of 2019. Like we were buying our stuff, pretty much everything was like 10 or 12 caps. And because I was buying in tertiary, secondary and tertiary markets, and we bought like income producing properties at like ridiculous cap rates. Okay, that's like gone are those days. Okay, you could not find deals for like 10 caps anymore, right? Like you just can't. All right, so you want to stick to like a 7 cap or an 8 cap, depending on if you're secondary or tertiary markets. And my virtual assistants are running numbers at 7 caps is what we're doing right now. And hopefully next year we'll be able to go up, even like get a better cap rate. Over the last couple of years, everything just got screwed up. So prices are just like not good. So let me, I see a lot of questions. So I want to do that. But before we get into the questions, I want to pull up my deal analyzer and I want to show you, let me see if I can pull it up like a copy of one here and just kind of go through that real fast. Let me see here. Deal analyzer. Here it is. Okay. Yeah. So let's just look at this one here. I'll share my screen. This is one of the ones that we put an offer in. Here it is. Okay. So this is our deal analyzer. So here you can see this is where we put the market cap rate. Okay. And this is where you can put, depending on what your area is, is it primary market, secondary, sub-primary, sub-secondary. A sub-secondary market is really like the suburbs of a secondary market, right? And a tertiary market is like a small town, and a sub-tertiary market is like super small town, right? Something like that, So but we're running like our numbers, like, so for this one here, it was in, where was it at? This is in Georgia. And yeah, so this one here was, he's making 80,000. It's a Dudley, Georgia. Let's just look this up. Dudley, Georgia is, what's the population of Dudley, Georgia? Population, yeah. 590 people. 590 people. Okay. He has a facility that's 90 units. He's in a small, now obviously Dudley, Georgia, is that like near some major city? Let's see. I don't know, I have no idea. I can't remember. I look at too many storage facilities, so I can't remember everything. So I think Dudley, Georgia is like middle Georgia, right? Yeah, Dudley, Georgia. Yeah, so it's in like middle Georgia, it's south of Macon, and like the middle of Georgia is where it's at. Okay. And so yeah, so just, it's a little tiny town in the middle of Georgia, and we are running our cap rate at 7. Okay. And he has 90 units. It's 111, it's sorry, 11,650 square feet. I mean, that's like a big storage facility for a town that's like only 600 people, right? And he's full. You can see he's full, and he's at 64 cents a square foot. And we looked at the competition, and look, the competition is at 57 cents. So he's at the highest number that he could be at. Like, there's no raising rents on this thing. All right. And when you run the numbers on this, so when we put you could see it's valued at $777,000. So just think about that. This is a little tiny town of almost 100 units, and the value of this property is $777,000. Okay. And we put the offer in, we ran it at a 7 cap, and look, even at a we try to get a 10% plus cash on cash return. So we keep our numbers at 10% for cash on cash, and because we want to make like 10% on our money, at least minimum, right? So the number at 530,000, it only came out to 8.36 cash on cash. And let me see. So if we did 500, I can change this. Yeah, I can. No, I have my numbers on. That's 5 million. It's one too many zeros. Okay. So yeah, so that's still at like a 9% cash on cash return. So 450,000 is the offer that we came up with. not thinking straight, putting way too many zeros in today. Okay, so $450,000 is what we came up with. And then we put in an offer, an owner financing offer. So for my deal analyzer, what we do is we'll always put a cash offer in. The cash offer is the same as what we could get for bank finance. Okay, so that's why you see the numbers all change. But then we'll come into like the owner financing offer, and we'll offer more money, because if we don't have to get bank financing, then we're willing to pay more, right? So let's say we did 525 on this one. Yeah. And then we just did 3 offers. We do 3 offers of 525. And we run our numbers, as you can see here on the deal analyzer. So we're using 450,000, 30% down. We could probably do 25% down. 7.5% interest is probably going to be 8% interest now, right? As we close. What interest rate do you think we're going to get on this, right? That's the question of the day. I mean, if we close in 90 to 120 days, he's going to, the rates are going to raise another at least 0.25, 25 basis points in February and March. So we're basically, I'm telling everybody to run their numbers at like 8% right now. It could be anywhere from 7 to 8%, especially for your first deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be expensive. So you want to make sure you run your numbers at what the interest rate is going to be when you close. But as you can see, like, I think a good offer for this deal would be $450,000, right? And then a $525,000 offer for owner financing. All right. And so in the deal analyzer, and the deal analyzer, it's kind of how we look at it. But what I really want to know is, like, if I buy this at a 7 cap, what is the valuation going to be when I want to sell the property? Right? This valuation is like, what could it be worth once I increase the rates, once I hold on to the property in like 3 to 5 years, what could I possibly sell this property for? And that's going to be $800,000. So then you have to ask yourself, which cap rate are you going to be able to do? Now, is it going to be an 8 cap? Right? That number is going to come down if it's an 8 cap. Right? So if we continue to go down in our cap rate over the course of the next couple of years, it actually go up, like, as an up or down, I don't know what it is. But like, if we continue to go from 7 to 8, and then like in tertiary markets, it goes to 8 to 10, remember, like I was buying stuff at 10% in 2016, so that means you're also losing your valuation. So this market cap rate is very important for you to consider what number you're going to use, based on not only the population and the location of the state, also the different types of markets out there, going from sub-tertiary to tertiary all the way up to primary, and then just knowing those numbers. And right now we're at a 7 cap, but we only look at at secondary and sub-secondary. Like we're essentially at secondary markets right now. Secondary markets are a 7 cap. All right. The question is, what will that cap rate become next year? Are we going to lose money, or is it going to stay stable at 7%? Or are we going to be able to sell this like Clarksville, or whichever one that we do, are we able to sell that at a lower cap rate so that we can make more money? Because if I can sell this property at a 6 cap, because back in the last 2 years, you could buy tertiary market properties for 6 caps, and I would see them being sold at 5 caps. Now, I never bought anything at a 5 or a 6 cap in a tertiary market. I always stuck to 7 cap or higher. Okay. So you want to just consider that over the course, if you're going to sell this property within the next 2 years or so, then you want to make sure you account for the right market cap rate that's going to increase or decrease over that time, or hold on to this property until the upcycle starts coming again, and that is where you're going to sell. But that means you're going to hold on to the property for 5 years or longer. Okay. So cap rate is very, very important when you're doing deal analysis. And, you want to understand the cap rate, the market cap rate of your area based on the location. Okay. Now, also what I wanted to say is this deal analyzer, up until now, this deal analyzer has only been offered to my students. First, my virtual assistants had access to it, and they used it for like a long time, for months and months and months, until we corrected it and fine-tuned it. They were like my guinea pigs.
And then after it became perfect, then we moved it over to my students, and my students have been using it since August of this year. So it took my husband Pete actually put this dill analyzer together. And we've been using the other dill analyzer. We use our other dill analyzer for years and years and years, and then we upgraded this year. So this year, as of 2023, this dill analyzer is going to be available to the public. We're going to make it available to the public. So you guys have to be on the lookout for access to this dill analyzer if you want. And then you will get the dill analyzer. We're going to sell it to anybody that wants access to it. And then you'll also get a couple of training videos on how to fill it out and stuff like that. So just be aware that you'll be getting access to that if you want to purchase it in 2023. We're working on making sure everything's set for that. That's the cap rate. That's the markets. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next year. Where does the cap rate go? Because I didn't buy anything in last year. We bought 4 facilities, and then the year before that we didn't buy anything because prices were just way too high. And I only buy stuff at a 7 cap or an 8 cap or 9 cap or 10 caps and stuff like that. So we didn't buy anything. So you just got to stick to your guns, be strong. And then also another thing I wanted to point out before we end the training session is that I had talked to a couple of bankers, and they said that over the course of the last couple of years, they lent money to investors on storage, and the storage facilities are now considered high risk because when they ran their numbers, they were running their numbers at like 6 caps and 5 caps and stuff. And now obviously the cap rate's not going to be there. And then also like they ran their numbers so that if they were full, then they'd be able to pay their mortgage. And a lot of times now, if you're running your numbers at like, you have to be full and you're a 6 cap, and that market is really a tertiary market and should be a 7 or an 8 cap, then you are going to put yourself into jeopardy of not being able to afford that mortgage and all the other expenses that come with that deal. All right. So do not push your numbers. All right. Be extra conservative over the course of the next couple of years, because if a bank is being conservative, that means that you should also be conservative, right? And so that's my advice to you over the next couple of years. Now, what does that mean, be conservative? That means that you are going to have to put more offers out than you could ever imagine in order to find that one deal that fits the numbers that are going to fit into your parameter. So that means it's going to take extra time, extra effort, extra offers, extra everything in order to find really, really good deals. Okay. So, I have it set up internally in my company, like we're a lean, mean self-storage offering machine. And that's why we find so many deals. So you are going to have to become this way as well too, because there's a lot of hands in the pot. Everybody wants to get into storage. Everybody's trying to find deals right now. And so you want to make sure that you put a lot of offers in, but you stick to your guns on your market cap rate, on your risk level, on your price that you want to pay. And you can't just put one offer in and hope you get it, because the truth is we put 5 to 10 offers in a week, and we only get like maybe one deal under contract a month. That's it. So we're putting in like 50 offers, at least 50 offers a month, and we get one contract under contract. Okay. That's kind of the numbers. That's the numbers. For every 50 offers, you're going to get one under contract. That's the numbers that we're seeing. So just think about over the next couple of over months as you start preparing for 2023. It's not going to be easy, but there's going to be really, really good deals coming up. If you can just, like I said, I bought 171 units on 6 acres for $375,000. And that facility is worth $2.3 million as is. All right, let's see. I'm going to hop on to my fund pitch right now, and I see a whole bunch of questions. Let me see if I can answer a couple of my friends. Yeah, so we do not, this is a live training session, so we do not have replays on this at all. I just teach every Monday for free. And so you can just hop on, listen in every Monday. And then also I have my pitch right after this. So if you want to be a passive investor, then I highly recommend that you come listen to my pitch. It's the Self-Storage Fund of America. And I gotta jump off and do that. All right, I take care. Have a happy Christmas. And also, the next webinars are the next 2 Mondays. I'm taking a break. All right, taking a break. And so we will see you January 9th for the Monday nights, because next Monday is like the day after Christmas, and I'm gonna just be chilling, drinking my eggnog. And then after that, the next Monday after that, I'll be driving back from New York. And so like to have that, it's just gonna be like, it's not gonna work out. So I'm taking a break, and I will see you guys January 9th. And then finally, one last thing, the doors to my coaching program open on January 8th. And I only open them for 2 weeks, and I only take 20 students. So you want to make sure that you get on the wait list, and you can go to storagenerds.com for that. And then you can talk to me about the coaching program if that's something that you're interested in. Okay. All right. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I will see you guys in the next year. All right. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storage Nerds. Hope this informative conversation inspired you to go out there and jump into this highly profitable business venture that people rarely talk about. Get more tips on storage space investing at www.stacyrossetti.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave a rating. Together, let's build that thriving passive income one storage space at a time. Until next time.